o'clock, and I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present, and let's do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sneeze.
I'm gonna have a sneezing fit.
Uh-oh.
Be ready.
2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Anything?
I don't have anything.
So, I don't have anything either, but is that on the agenda?
Yes, it's the
Yes.
very last thing.
It's 6.4.
6.4.
Oh,
The
okay.
water stuff.
All right.
That women can.
That
So
right
I
there.
looked for it and didn't see it, and I thought, that's funny, she must be gonna add it in the morning.
No, it's there.
Okay, let's move into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. And as usual, I'll just note that we are very informal here, so as we move through the agenda, if there's anything that you want to ask questions on or provide feedback on, we welcome that as we work through today's items. April.
I'm April Ahmet, and I work as the Gilliam County Victims Assistance Director. And I don't know if this would be a time to bring this up, but this is something that I hope the court can think about in the future, is houselessness and our freeway in Arlington and the resources that we have for people that come through that are homeless. I know that we have Arlington Help Fund, but I'm finding that I'm receiving some calls because they don't have the funds to support that. And as we know what's happening in larger cities, it's people are leaving there in a vehicle, and their vehicle breaks down here, and they're here with all their belongings. So I don't know how this works, if we have a partner that provides help like Nextdoor or CCS, or if there is a partner that we are giving money to in the county right now that maybe is someone that we could call. But not everybody falls under my grants, so I cannot provide services for everyone. It just depends on what their situation is. And so that's a concern of mine, that we're gonna have a big issue in the future. And it's already starting. So I worked all weekend, work with someone. And so because our help fund doesn't have the resources that they need. So that might just be something you guys, I would love feedback on that, to know if we do have someone that could help us out, or if there's somebody that we could call.
So is it, April, is it people who are, like you said, sort of breaking down, they're here temporarily, or are you talking about more of a longer term?
No, pretty much even just here temporarily, because if they hit here on a Friday night, we really don't really have a mechanic, we don't have, there's no services as far as that goes. I know that law enforcement has provided rides to other communities where there is services. If they're just hitchhiking in, that works, where they do, law enforcement provides a service by driving them into the Dalles or whatever, to where there is services. But if it's someone who breaks down and they have all their belongings, they have not a dollar to their name, and so they're pretty much stuck. They don't want to really leave their belongings. They don't have a place to live. They don't have a place to go here. And the Arlington Help can only help a few days in a hotel. So where do we go from there?
I know that I can think of 3 different vehicles that have pulled in that have been stuck in the last couple months. One of them had had everything they owned tied in garbage bags all over the outside of it, and it's not this far off the ground. They're here for a week, and I was like, I don't know what's going on with them. There was a guy that came in and was broke down, and he started applying for jobs so he could get out of town, but, like for me, that, I can't be real helpful with something like that.
Right, and a lot of these,
I don't even know, he's not gonna be around long enough to even get trained.
Right.
To do anything, and it's.
and a lot of these people don't even have, they don't even have identification, they don't have birth certificate, they don't have anything to provide someone to get a job. They have to it's almost like they gotta work under the
You
table.
can always tell what situation they're in, or I can, because, they'll either get somebody to come in and rescue them, or they'll rent a U-Haul and get out of town one way or another. They find a way but the ones that are stuck are stuck.
Mhm.
They have nothing.
And
No way
they
to do
funds
anything.
to do that, yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe it's something that we could, April, see about maybe putting you and maybe Teddy and maybe the help ladies around a table and figuring out whether it's just a fund that maybe we stick in Teddy's budget that you just know is available if we need to provide additional hotel rooms or something for somebody, or even help cover a mechanic's bill kind of thing to get a car going. Those kinds of things. It sounds like maybe we just need to kind of figure out what's the most, what makes most sense in terms of maybe even just setting, or maybe it's looking at the amount that we give to help and seeing if we need to increase that amount. I think we could maybe have just a little meeting between several of the people who have potentially some pots of money or at least contact with people who are coming into the community and could maybe identify where's the best place for the county to put resources. Do you think that makes some
Yes.
sense? Okay.
Perfect.
And the sheriff's department as well, to have them
Yeah.
weigh in on
Yeah,
what that looks like and how.
and if it's just somebody who's walking that has their personal possessions on them, because people, that's all they've got, they don't want to leave them, is that, even just getting a bus ticket, taking them,
Mhm.
maybe involving Gilliam County Transportation, they could take them in and give them a ride to the bus station or however that works.
Mhm.
But sometimes you're not working also with, you want law enforcement to be involved because, so for safety wise, certain reasons. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
I just wanted you guys to be aware, because most people, we don't say anything to anybody.
Right.
So most
Right.
people don't know what's necessarily happening,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's happening. So,
Okay.
And like you say, it's probably going to
It's-
increase.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. I'll put that on my list of things that we can start a
Okay.
conversation about, and then I think we can, if we need more budget allocation, then we can figure out where that needs to go. And it may just be that the help ladies say, we're happy to be the point of contact, we just need more resources, in which case we would just need to revise the IGA that we have with them, or the MOU, and then just the next budget cycle, bump that amount up, so.
Okay.
We
Thank you.
can get it sorted,
Thank you.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you for bringing the issue.
Yeah.
Any other public comments for now?
Don't think so.
I don't see any online. Okay, we'll go into correspondence. So we have Paul's fourth quarter update for all of his veterans outreach activities. And as usual, it's like, I think 6 pages or something, and he's a
busy man.
busy guy. I continue to just be very grateful that he is here, and it was a good hire. He works very hard for our veterans, so we'll just put out another shout out if you're listening on YouTube later and you know a veteran who may benefit from having a conversation with Paul about benefits or any struggles you're having with the VA or any of that kind of stuff. He's here to be a resource, so please reach out to him, or if you know somebody in the community that is a veteran that could use his help, refer him over to, or her over to him. And there's also an email that we received from Darren Jones, who owns the lower trailer Park, asking about grants for enhancing the mobile home park, the lower one here in Arlington, just up the street. And so I asked Teresa to put it on the consent agenda or on the correspondence because I wasn't sure how you guys wanted to respond.
I think we need to do a little work in the background, but obviously it's an area of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Housing's an area of concern too, and maybe there's something we can figure out. I have never met the gentleman.
I was encouraged by his ideas and what he wants to, what he sees could be there. And I deliver
Rob
meals
kind of
there on
punt-
Tuesdays. and-
Rob kind of punted the ball, but we forgot how to kind of punt it back
Right.
and see.
Well, I'd like to have him come and, you know, talk to us some more, but we need to find out where those resources are so we can help him find them.
Mm-hmm. One thing I could do is maybe as a starting point is forward his email over to Business Oregon, to Ryan, who's just
Oh,
saw
yeah.
us last
Right?
week or 2 weeks ago, and see if they have any, you know, whether it's loans or grants for businesses, because part of what he's talking about is infrastructure.
Yes.
Sewer and
Yes.
water. And so maybe there's something, even if he could partner with, say, the city, to have more hookups up there, or however he wants to structure it.
I think a lot of it's going to be hookup repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the restructure of it, because what it sounds like is he was going from 80 small lots to 45 larger lots that the larger manufactured homes would, to accommodate the size of the homes that he wants.
But I mean, I think that there's a lot of conversation needs to happen because the way that's been managed up to date, I don't know how that fits into the residents that are there now and how they pay for a place to live and how that would look with new homes going in. There's a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I wondered that too, because although he owns the park, those people own their trailers, and so I don't know what that looks like. How do you evict someone
Kind
if
of
you
a
want to take their
difficult
lot?
situation
Yeah,
that
Yeah, there's a
they are
lot.
in and how you get them out. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
there's a lot of legal
what's
involved
the
as well.
business plan for this to work for it? And then help the county too.
So why don't we start with a referral, and I'll maybe loop the port in as well, so they're aware that this, and maybe Jeff can be on the lookout for things that he sees that are coming in. But as a starting point, maybe connecting him with Ryan and just saying, is there anything that might be able to at least address the water and sewer piece that he's looking for? It may be in the form of a loan, not a grant, but if he's putting a bunch of new homes on there, he still might be able to make that work. So, okay, I will make that connection.
It'd be interesting if he's looking to set up rentals on there for, you know, maybe some of our workforce housing and some of that.
We need more information.
Okay,
we
So
can
I'll
help him
make an
find the
initial-
resources he needs.
I'll make an initial connection. I'll let him know that at this point, we don't have a grant program set up for private businesses, but that the court would be potentially interested in hearing more about what he's considering. And then I'll see if I can make the connection with Ryan and see if Business Oregon has anything out there that might be applicable. Okay, that's all I have under correspondence, so let's move into consent agenda. Questions about this?
I didn't have any questions.
No, I don't think so.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of July 7th, 2021 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of July bills pending review, consider approval of assistance section, Crime Act Criminal Fines and Assessment Grants application, and authorize county judge to execute related agreements. Consider approval of Oregon Emergency Management Performance Grant application and authorize county judge to execute related agreements. And consider approval of Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD 2021 through 2023 Planning Assistance Grant Agreement. And consider approval of Intergovernmental Office Space Lease Agreement with Oregon DMV. Is there further discussion?
Judge Patno, did you have a question?
kind of signed on for a minute and then
Wasn't sure her audio wasn't up if she had something. Okay.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Go through here. Okay, under 5.1, discussion and possible action regarding Holland & Sons warehouse demolition bids. Jeff Schott, is that you? That's Jeff on the Zoom?
It is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Louder.
right. I'll even turn on the video.
Oh, good.
There we are. Good morning.
Headset and everything.
Now you look
Yeah.
You look official. So I kind of broke down for the commissioners in the, or Teresa did in the briefing, that we put out a bid, or put out an RFP, got one bid back that seemed a little eye-popping for the demolition and the asbestos abatement, and that you went back to see if maybe we could get that demolition down by seeing if there was another contractor that would be willing to do the demo. And Watkins was willing to do it.
Right. So what I did back in, I think it was April or maybe May, I put out a RFP on behalf of the county that included the abatement of the asbestos on the Holland & Sons building and demolition. And the demolition was an additive alternate to it. And I solicited 4 bids. I think I went to 5 different abatement companies to do it. My thinking was, well, if you're going to be there already, why don't we just take care of the rest of it? So I got one number back, and it was from Cascade Insulation, and their base number was for the asbestos abatement was $47,950, and then their demolition bid was $54,950. So you add it up, and it's like $110,000 or something, or over $100,000, which was eye-popping. So I talked to Cascade, and I'm like, hey, what's the deal? And he's like, I know it's high, but I got to move my stuff over. I've got to have guys here. So then I reached out to get another number from Watkins because we already solicited numbers, and this was in June. And Rick came back to do it after the abatement done, $22,000. So if you add those two together, I think it's like $69,000 to do it. And that's basically to take down the wood portion of the building, and it eliminates the building. Now we're leaving a lot of the concrete foundations around the perimeter there, sawing off the bolts on it. And the reason for doing that is a couple of things. One, we want to leave some of those walls there at least temporarily because they're acting as retaining walls for grade change differences between the main building, or between the inside of the Holland & Sons building and the outside. And so that occurs like between it and the park there at the library, and on the north side between the Holland & Sons building and the city property to the north. So I just have them like, we're going to leave the concrete there. We're going to get rid of all the wood structure. We're going to be based with a bare lot. And then we can kind of figure out what we want to do with it at that point. Do we want to grade it out? Do we want to turn it into a parking lot? Do we want to sell it? What do we want to do? But at least we get that thing taken care of. That portion of it goes away. So that's what I have for you. And I'm sorry it's so expensive, but I think that, the issue on the roof, the issue on the asbestos is that there's potentially quite a bit of asbestos on that roof because of the snow seal that was put on it. I know that happened when we did the library back in 2012, I think. So there's quite a bit of volume there. But I thought the demolition bid from Watkins was very much in line with my original expectations.
Well, and if it wouldn't have had asbestos, it wouldn't be that expensive to do it.
My question around the asbestos side of it is, I assume that's removal, disposal, and everything's got figured in it, but
Yes.
to take into consideration that there's a certain amount of tonnage that is free disposal of waste management?
Yes, we did. It's up to 200 tons, so I don't think that there's any portion of this I don't think this building should not exceed 200 tons unless you take concrete out, and even if you did, you might be over 200 tons then, but I doubt it.
Well, this is strictly the abatement period, though.
This is just the abatement, and then of course some of the wood will have to go as well with Watkins to the or wherever they choose to take it, but that's potentially would also go to the landfill.
And then we'll need to hire an electrician, is that right, Jeff, to come in and decommission?
Yeah, right now there's an existing electrical service that runs between the library, and then there's electrical panel inside the building. I didn't have that in the scope for the demolition. My thinking is we're just going to have have an electrician come in and disconnect the electrical on the library side of it. We'll probably leave the conduit in place, and maybe leave the conductors in a box there so that we can use it and salvage the breaker panel that we have there. And that's that's a small scope, so that's, I don't know, that's probably $1,000 worth of work or something there.
Are you thinking, Jeff, I mean, this all kind of started because the safety committee came to us and said that sidewalk was a problem.
Yep.
So is the idea though that the sidewalk really isn't going to be tackled until we figure out what we want to do with the lot? Is that your recommendation?
Yeah, that's right. My feeling is that the thing about doing the sidewalk before you figure out what you're going to do with the rest of it is your sidewalk's going to be wrong. We can adjust the grading on the sidewalk when we first build it, and we could go in and put a sidewalk if we wanted to right now. I think we might want to put that out for bid a little bit later, but we could do it. The issue is it going to be consistent with what your future plan is for using the building?
Questions for Jeff?
I think I asked mine.
I don't think so. Thank you.
So how are we feeling? Do we want to move forward with?
I think so. This has been talked about for several years, and we've finally gotten to a point where maybe we actually can do some action. I think we need to do it before it gets more expensive.
Where does this come out of the budget?
We could take it, I think we could probably take it out of, there's a sizable capital projects line item that we could take it out of that I think has probably $1 million sitting in it. So we could take it out of there. That probably makes the most sense, do you think, Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to accept the bid from Cascade Insulation Incorporated in the amount of $47,950 for asbestos abatement of the Holland and Sons warehouse.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Cascade Insulation Incorporated in the amount of $47,950 for asbestos abatement of the Holland and Sons warehouse. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then do we want to accept the bid from Watkins for demolition?
Yeah, I move to accept the bid from Watkins Excavation in the amount of $22,000 for the demolition of the Holland and Sons warehouse.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Watkins Excavation in the amount of $22,000 for demolition of the Holland and Sons warehouse. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Jeff, tear it down.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. We'll get it done. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
All right. 5.2, consider approval of IGA with the Port of Arlington for Willow Creek Project, IGA restructuring. Okay, so you guys know the background of all of this. Christy took a look before she moved over to DOJ and made some small, I think modest modifications, specifically under Section 2, Part A. She, per our instructions, is okay with not spelling out at this point exactly what the project is, but she felt it was really important that we put in language that clarifies that this agreement itself is not complete until that addendum is added and we agree what the project is and what everybody's responsibilities are. And until that happens and the project is completed, those old IGAs will hang out there until we get a good project together and finished. She just felt legally, for our own liability, it was important not to just wipe the others off the books until this is complete. And the other significant change was in the original draft from the court. Under section 2, subsection C, it said originally that the court agrees to contribute up to $547,900. The issue obviously that Christy had with that is that the up to could mean that $5 sufficed. And so she said, if you want them to spend that money, you need to say they need to spend the full amount. So she fixed that. And then other than that, it was just a few little legal clauses that she added here and there. I did send it over to Jeff Dane. He took a look at it. I think initially he was okay with the changes. His board is meeting tonight to look at it. And so my recommendation would be, if you guys are comfortable with the changes that our council made, that we move forward with approving it. If their board decides that they want to tinker, we can always bring it back on consent. But if they decide tonight they want to approve it, that way it's done on both sides and we can sign it and move forward. So that's my recommendation for that one.
Mr. Shannon, did you have any questions about it?
Oh, I don't know that I like not getting rid of those other two IGAs just to get it cleaned up, but the one thing I would be hopeful is that this might set some groundwork so these kind of projects should be approached like this in the future from the court and the port and pursue stuff together that obviously they're going to require some funding from the county to get that stuff to happen, because once this is done, they'll have none. So with that in mind, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I can move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Gilliam County and the Port of Arlington for Willow Creek Project intergovernmental agreement restructuring as presented. It's a lot.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the intergovernmental agreement between Gilliam County and the Port of Arlington for Willow Creek Project intergovernmental agreement restructuring as presented. Is there?
Yeah, in discussion, is there any timelines on when a project? I didn't see that.
I don't think there are.
I don't think there are any.
It would be nice if they get that figured, we all get that figured out fairly quickly then.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, once both entities agree on this, then we can sit down together and say, well, what are our projects?
Yeah, I know the Mace is one that everybody's kind of agreement on, so that's gonna take a month, so.
Yeah,
get that pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take long to spend it.
Well, and I think they have a Newport board, obviously, that's being sworn in tonight, so I'm sure they probably want a month or two to kind of get their legs under them, but then after that, I imagine by probably fall time, we could have the project identified and start figuring out what we want to do.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so any further discussion? Not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Yay! The Willow Creek saga is moving forward. Hallelujah.
I don't want to slow it down.
Right?
Yeah, be careful about voting no on that one. Okay, now we're moving on to an update on USDA APHIS Wildlife Services. And we have Ryan, and I don't know if I know you.
So my name is Shane Coyle. I'm the supervisor out of LeGrand.
Got it. Fantastic. If you guys want to, you can stay. Let me see if it looks like Houdini's picking you up from there, or you can come up to the table, whichever you prefer.
Let's see.
And so I asked if they could come actually because they're part of our budget. We sign off, and I just thought this might be a good opportunity to kind of learn about how the program works, and if folks, if you're hearing from people out in the community that need this, like predator control help and stuff like that, how they tap into that. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Oh, great.
Give us the overview.
Okay, I'm Ryan. I'm the county specialist here. I live in Condon. So most of our stuff is done off complaint basis. So folks call us, hey, I got a problem with a coyote, badger, raven, moose, mouse, whatever, pretty much any species. Then we try to address it the best way we can to help them out. But yeah, most everything we do, we work off of complaints. So they call us. Here in the county, most of the work we've been doing is coyote-based work around the lambing and calving grounds. In the winter is the biggest time of year. Quite a bit of raven work for the same reasons. Some badger work here lately around all the cemeteries. They've been horrible this year for some reason. As a matter of fact, they got your family plot 3-4 weeks ago. Some skunk work. We did a little bit of geese work up here at the golf course in Arlington. They were making a mess, so we got rid of them, encouraged them to leave.
Yeah, that's a better term.
Encouraged them to leave, yes. Other than that, questions? Any questions you guys have or
So
comments?
you add Mormon crickets to your
I
list.
was just gonna ask the same thing.
I've never dealt, do we?
No,
I don't know.
not us, because we're wildlife. Maybe the APHIS branch.
Some of them are big enough, some of them are big enough.
Not quite.
Yeah, some of them are big enough to be considered wildlife though, yeah. No, I've never done any Mormon cricket work. I know they were spraying quite a bit around here earlier this summer. That wasn't us.
April, did you have a question?
Have you seen an increase in predators because of the crickets?
I don't think so.
Okay, I mean, I was just curious.
Maybe on the bird side, but I don't know what else would eat them stinking little things.
I know.
Fish.
Fish,
Yeah, people collect them to use for bait.
yeah. Other than that, we did do some flying with our airplane this year for coyote work. I'm hoping that maybe we can incorporate that a little bit more this year because it's really effective, real quick and effective.
What do you think has increased the badger population?
I don't know. I think it's probably just a cycle, or I'm not sure. It's just
Not whether-
this
Not much of a winter, maybe?
could be.
Yeah,
It's most I've seen since I've been here, which I've only been here 3 years, but it's quite a bit of activity this summer for some reason.
And are you finding, I mean, are folks connecting with you? Is there anything that we can do to help
I
make
think
sure that?
Teresa has my number. If they call in, it doesn't matter what it is, feel free to tell them to give me a call. I'll talk to anybody about anything,
Okay.
even if we can't help them out on something, it doesn't matter. But yeah, for the most part, most of the livestock folks I've got around too, and the ones I haven't are, I've talked to the other folks and they've been able to, yeah.
Are you doing any air control with coyotes?
What's that?
Doing any air control on coyotes?
We did a little bit this year. I'm hoping to do more this year, this coming year, this winter. Funding on that's an issue because we have to pay for the time on the plane. Yeah, I hate begging for money. So,
I'm assuming some of those cattle and sheep ranchers though probably would pay for
yes,
that. I mean,
A lot of
the
them.
cost share on
a
some
lot
of
of
it.
them, yeah. And I don't know what our price is now.
We haven't figured out the next year price. This last year it was $216 an hour, which is pretty cheap. We have to kind of subsidize that a little bit
Mhm.
on the federal side, but I'm sure next year it'll be a little more than that this next winter.
Yeah, since fuel's gone up to $3 a gallon, right?
Yeah. And I don't know I heard the airline fuel was in a shortage, so I don't know how that's going to affect us.
Yeah.
Questions?
Any questions? Any at all?
I don't think so.
So folks, I'm talking to the Zoom people, but if you have got an issue with wildlife, now you have a face and a number. So you can obviously reach out to the county court office and we can refer you, or you can just call Ryan directly.
Yeah.
If you need help with something, the county does put in a good investment to provide the service. So we definitely encourage folks to make sure.
Yeah,
you're
please call.
taking advantage of that if you are having an issue. So fantastic.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it's just protection of agriculture, which is a majority of what we do, but it's also the human health and safety things as
So
well.
yeah, even like a woodpecker in your house or something of that
You know,
nature.
or the geese, on the golf course, whatever, that could spread disease. So it's kind of broader than just protecting the ag resource.
That's why I was asking about more pregnancy.
Yeah.
Sugar ants.
Nope. All right. Well, thank you guys so much
Thanks
for
so much.
coming.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Spending the time with us this morning. Okay.
Come on.
Let's go into 6.2, consider award of special projects grants. So we received from Teresa and from Kelly, the review team, the grant review team reviewed the applications on the 17th. And so we have their recommendations. The synopsis was part of your packet, but then we also received the full applications and the larger recommendation sheets. And so I will just stop there and ask how you guys want to proceed. Do we want to just start with the north end and talk about them, or are you guys happy with the recommendations as they are? And
I think we
wanna make
need
a
to talk about them.
okay, good. So you want to start with the north end?
I guess my little background is in an effort to be transparent, and we had there's only one we did not fund, and I'd like to have a discussion about that. The rest of them I'm fine with, but, and I was on the committee, as Teresa knows, and we had some concerns on that particular project. And so in an effort to be transparent, I talked to Rod a couple of weeks ago and told him that the committee had recommended not to fund him, and we had some conversations, and I've had some since, and I have a whole bunch of material from him that I haven't gotten completely through. But, well, I think, Teresa, you might kick in here too, because you and I mean, we all talked about some of the concerns that were out there. One of them was what Paradise Rose, who is part of that, is getting from events that the Lord puts on. And I think I've been through, I've got their checkbook, I've got the audit from Barnett Morrow. I've got a bunch of information that I've had time to really walk through all of it and want to get close. I do think they have spent quite a little bit of money trying to move the project forward and have some things happening. And that was one issue. One issue was that they had asked, or I had stated in the grant, their expectation was that the county build the rest of the building for them. And I told them that was not going to happen. And they didn't even seem to realize that was even in the grant. I think the grant writer stuck it in. I talked to Julius and Rod extensively about that. That is not their expectations. They do have other grants the grant writer is writing, including into the Ford Foundation. They spent quite a little bit of money having grants written. They spent a lot of money with Tennyson Engineering, and they spent money getting water into the property. They spent $4,000 or $5,000 with Watkins excavation and leveling the pad for the building. So they do have quite a little bit of stuff. Money's been spent on put into the process. I have a few questions that I need to get to the bottom of. Maybe we need to wait on that one. I don't know how you feel about that. I'd like to answer a few questions, but in consideration, some of the donations the Woolry Group has done throughout the community is pretty incredible. Donate a lot of money to a lot of things, including the Arlington Booster Club, and I've got a pretty good list on stuff that they've actually.
I think that's what I would like to see, and what I've said in the past was where did the money go? You know, I know they've made money, and so, you know, hearing, you know, what that they've been having to spend it on grants and all the things that they've had to do to get where they are today. It, you know, on the surface, it looks like they've just been kind of spinning their wheels, and you can't tell where the money has
And I
gone
think there's
when
been,
they ask for it.
I think there's been a lot of that that's gone on, and I think the primary reason is they've done fundraisers that haven't been extremely successful for raising a lot of money, and they've turned around and invested into a fundraiser, and that money's been rotating through fundraisers that haven't generated a lot of income. I do have a letter from Julius because he was extremely concerned that there was any type of an accusation in regards to Paradise Roads and Ron, and he's very offended. If you guys would like to see that, in fact, I probably should give you a copy of it because he's the treasurer, the bookkeeper, so he kind of took offense to any accusations that the bookkeeping might not be done correctly. And so, you know, I think there's still some research to do on it. I've got, like I said, some questions. I hate the one thing that, you know, we have money in there. We didn't spend it all. And they're the only one that denied. And so I think, you know, I don't know how you guys feel about looking into it a little further, but I mean, I'm okay with the $10,000 with where they're at, with what I've seen so far, but I do have some questions, just so you know.
Can I say something as part of the grant review committee?
Yeah.
If they aren't here, this is the time and place for them to come here and plead their case. And this little letter from Julius, as far as I know, Kelly's on here as well. I don't know how this hearsay got to Rod.
Well, I just told you.
You speaking to Rod without us regarding our private discussion before the court, I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, I think if we have questions why we're going to deny a grant, I'm not comfortable with not telling them what, you know, giving them a chance to answer the question.
But that's what this setting is for right here, for all the applicants to come and plead their case in front of you all.
Well,
and they're not here.
Yeah, I mean, my concern with this, and Sherry kind of alluded to it, is, you know, the county has historically given quite a bit of money in special projects grants to support like the Oktoberfest. And every time we look at those financials, it doesn't seem like the needle's moving in the direction it should. And so, I mean, for me, I will just lay it on the table. My big concern is that these are the stepping stones for the big ask, and that we are going to have them here in a year or two, basically saying we want you to build the building. And I'm not sure that I'm prepared to spend that kind of money.
I can promise you I'm not.
Yeah, and so, but my concern is, are we setting ourselves up by continuing to make these small investments where people will start to make the argument to us, well, you've already invested between all of these little 10,000 here and 20,000 here, $100,000, $200,000 for a project. I mean, at some point, I mean, for me, I feel like it's not that I am not supportive of the concept, but I would like to see some more ground being made on actually fundraising for it before the county starts laying in too much money, if that makes sense. Like, I worry that the next step is going to be, okay, now the county needs to fund it, because you've already funded this piece, and we funded Oktoberfest for 3 years before that, and we funded, I mean, I just want to make clear, if the court decides to fund this, I think the message to the lorry needs to be clear. You need to go find the money for this elsewhere. We are not building empty buildings anymore.
The message is clear from what I've communicated to them. I don't think that's their expectation personally.
But that was in their application.
I understand that, Teresa. And the part of it that, and we talked about that too, is that area up there and getting something to happen to it, I think is a positive for the county, and that once you get something going on up there, it's easier to get something else going on. And that's part of where I come from with this. But, yeah, I mean, I don't completely understand why it's an issue. It's all county decisions and business and taxpayer money when we sit down and have a meeting. We're not in executive session. And I don't think it's wrong for an elected official to talk to residents of the county. And I've been stopped on Main Street, particularly by a city councilman asking me what's going on with it. And I'm not going to say, I can't tell you.
But I think the point is, that Teresa's trying to make is, this is the forum for them to speak to all of us, not just you. They've talked to you and you've interpreted what they've said to you. And so then you're gonna bring it back to us, but we don't get to ask some questions or see the paperwork that you have. We have nothing.
Yeah,
It's been a private meeting between you and Ron that hasn't involved the rest of us who are making these decisions.
And I think that I guess I would like to give them that opportunity. They're uncomfortable doing that because they just feel like they're up against a brick wall. So, I mean, I had that conversation with them too. Julius was going to be, I'm surprised Julius isn't here. I don't know why he's not. He said,
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from either, but I don't know where this hearsay of that Rod's taking all the money is. That's not what I want to see the financials. Paradise Rose has to get paid for the meals that they serve.
well, then they're not,
And,
I don't think they're doing that. They're getting paid for the meat and the material in the meals. They're not making it anyway.
Right, but that's what I mean. That's part of the overhead on those. But where the money goes after they have had a fundraiser
Well, and that's
is
what,
not clear to me.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
what I
what
was-
holds me back.
that's what I was looking at. I said I haven't gone through all of that to look at it in detail, but they've obviously spent some money that needed to be spent to get to where they're at. I mean, that's real apparent. I mean, you know, in full accounting, and they received this in grants and received this in fundraisers. I can't give you that.
So if I'm hearing, it sounds like perhaps the court has an interest in further discussion on the Lori's application.
Yep.
Is that accurate? Sherry, where are you?
I would listen.
Okay. So we're not in an outright do not fund, is what I'm asking. Okay.
If he came and presented, I'm willing to listen, but I'm not going to fund something that we do feel like we're spinning our wheels on.
Yeah, that is my concern. I've stated it, but I want to make sure that this is not just the next step in the long-range plan of the county having another building that we have funded.
Well, I mean, that's obviously our decision when we get to that point, but yeah, I'm not in favor of that, and I definitely wouldn't get that.
Okay, so how about this? Could we table the Woolery's application, invite them to an upcoming meeting? They can state their case and explain why their financials look like they're stagnant. And then could we perhaps move forward with the other two if there are no objections? Just because I'm thinking, I know TV co-op, probably
Well, we
even the
could
Saddle
do these
Club.
individually, right? I mean,
Exactly.
There's
We can
no
do them
reason.
individually or as a group. I'm fine with the rest of them. I just thought we should have a discussion since that's the only one that we did deny and our funds available.
Okay, so why don't we, so we're fully comfortable with the Saddle Clubs and the TV co-ops requests.
Yes.
Okay, so could I get a motion for those two so that we can go ahead and get grant agreements out and move those two forward, and then we'll table Woolery and invite them to a meeting to come state their case.
I would make a motion to fund the grant applications for the TV co-op. And what was the other one?
Arlington Saddle Club.
Yeah, and the Arlington Saddle Club.
Okay. Is there a second?
The Arlington Saddle Club would be in the amount of $18,750, and the Arlington TV Cooperative would be in the amount of $20,000. I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
That'd be specific.
I lost my screen,
Here.
so I got back to it.
Okay, so So it's been moved and seconded that we award the grant agreement or the grants to the Arlington Saddle Club in the amount of $18,750 and Arlington TV Cooperative in the amount of $20,000.
Do we have to authorize you to do that too in this motion?
That would be excellent if you guys don't mind amending the amendment, the motion to allow me to do that. Are you okay with that?
It's at the very bottom. It says, well, right?
And I will amend the motion to authorize county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed.
Okay, so the
It
amended
took a while to get that motion put together.
the amended motion
Alright.
reads that we're awarding the fiscal year 2021-2022, just to be clear, special projects grants, that way Kelly and Nathan know where the money's supposed to come from, to the Arlington Saddle Club in the amount of $18,750, to the Arlington TV Cooperative in the amount of $20,000, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed. Got it?
Got it. And
Any
I
further
second that.
discussion? Okay. That's the motion. Sherry seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we got those two. For the South, it looks like the recommendation, the only times it looks like they were reduced was just a matching issue. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the matching funds?
Is that right, Teresa?
So I didn't have any concerns with any of these.
No, I did not either.
Those were just minor adjustments, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't a lot.
Couple hundred here and there.
Yep.
So do we have a motion? Sherry, do you want to make it?
I'd love to give you my paper back.
Cheat sheet?
Give me my papers back, although I do have it on my screen. I move to award the fiscal year 2021-2022 South Gilliam Special Projects Grants to the following organizations. City of Lone Rock in the amount of $4,476. Condon Child Care Priority Number 1 in the amount of they're not in order.
Chamber of Commerce. Do you want to just go through the?
To the Condon Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $20,000. Condon Early Learning Center, first priority, $2,934. Condon Early Learning Center, second
First priority
priority.
was 2,800.
Oh, you're right. Second priority, $2,934. Condon Education Foundation Board, $2,820. Condon Scholarship Foundation, $8,575. Gilliam County Historical Society, $12,750. South Gilliam County Rural Fire Protection District, $17,775, and the Summit Springs Village Corporation, $16,000. And to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we award the fiscal year 2021-2022 South Gilliam Special Projects Grants to the following organizations. The City of Lone Rock in the amount of $4,476. The Condon Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $20,000. The Condon Early Learning Center First Priority in the amount of $2,800. The Condon Early Learning Center Second Priority in the amount of $2,934. The Condon Education Foundation Board in the amount of $2,820. The Condon Scholarship Foundation in the amount of $8,575. The Gilliam County Historical Society in the amount of $12,750. The South Gilliam County Rural Fire Protection District in the amount of $17,775, and Summit Springs Village Corporation in the amount of $16,000, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute grant agreements reflecting the terms and conditions discussed. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we will get in touch with the Woolery and invite them to come see us probably next meeting, assuming they can make that work on their calendar, and then we can wrap up that last one. Teresa and I will get the grant agreements out to everybody else ASAP, and we'll get rolling. So I see John Nye is on there. John, good luck with your project.
Yeah, more power to you.
Thanks. We'll get it done.
Thanks, John.
Okay, let's go on to 6.3, which is consider approval of resolution number R 2021-10, a resolution adopting fiscal year 2021-2022 salary schedules. So as a preview, because this is the first time we've done it with Pat here, each year the county court is responsible for adopting the salary schedules for the upcoming fiscal year. We do it for represented, non-represented sheriff's office and elected officials. Historically, we provide a cost of living increase between 2.5 and 3.5%, depending on the West size class BC of the CPI West, which Nathan does the calculation for us because
January to December, the previous year.
January to December. So the calculation this year is 2.5%. In addition, the Gilliam County Compensation Board met and provided a letter to us, which is in your packet, but I will summarize the three main points, which is no adjustments to previous recommendations need to be made. Elected officials should receive the 2.5 cost of living increase, and the elected officials should receive the step changes following the current schedule and appropriate for their time served. The resolution before you would adopt the salary schedules for non-represented sheriff's office and elected officials. The represented one is still under negotiation. So once they wrap up the CBA negotiations and the salary schedule for that, that will obviously come before the court and we'll move forward on that piece. So that is why obviously the represented is not in here. It's still under negotiation. Two things I wanted to note that are of significance. Most of these have just had the standard CPI and we moved forward. There's two changes that are significant. The first one is the public transportation driver amount. We are having a heck of a time recruiting people. And so the recommendation after looking at some of our neighboring counties and seeing what that amount is, I think originally we started at $12 an hour. And with the labor market, what it is, you're not going to get somebody to take that.
You're never going to get
job.
anybody at $12.
Yeah. So the recommendation was that we maybe try for 15 and see if that doesn't shake loose some candidates for the second driver position that we're currently recruiting for. And so that change you'll find on the non-represented salary schedule. The other one I want to point out for you is under the sheriff's office schedule. You'll note the parole and probation director is now a Gilliam County employee. She used to be, when it was under Tri-County, a Sherman County employee. By state law, we have to pay what Sherman County paid. And so in that, and so I just want to note for you, because for some people who are looking at home, it's going to look like, whoa, that's a pretty healthy compensation. In order to comply with state law, Sherman County does not pick up the 6% contribution. And so that's why that number looks so huge, is that Tina would have been paying out her 6% to hers out of this amount. Our employees do not. Gilliam County picks it up. And so that's why it may look a little bit inflated. And so what Ellen is going to do to keep it consistent and to make sure we're in accordance with law, and legal counsel has weighed in on what we have to do, is that Ellen will actually take 6% out of that $82,000 for her purse. So that we're consistent with what Sherman County did on this particular employee, which we are required to do by state law. So I just wanted to flag that for you. If you get questions on why that compensation looks out of step with the others in the sheriff's office, that is why 6% of that will come out of that to go cover Tina's purse.
Okay.
Questions on that piece?
I don't know.
If not, do we have a motion?
I would make that move. I move to adopt resolution. Is that what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Number R 2021-10 is presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number R 2021-10 as presented. Is there further discussion?
We didn't have to declare we had a conflict of interest, did we?
Yeah.
We might want to.
Yeah, I have a conflict of interest because my salary is included in that.
Yeah, for the record, all three of us are voting on our own compensation. By law, we have to do it, so.
Sure he has an additional conflict.
I will.
Oh, I have an additional conflict because my son's salary is also.
I will declare conflict also for that reason. I guess maybe I should, because I have a sister.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah. So Teresa, could you just know all three of us declared conflicts for various familial connections? I just have the one, which is my salary, but I will have one on the represented when it comes up. So further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we got our conflicts noted for the record. I doubt that will come as a surprise to anybody that we're conflicted by voting on our own
Right.
compensation.
Right.
But such it is.
The declaration has been.
Okay, now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Discussion regarding Shuttler Station Industrial Park well.
And the nice man who has endured this entire meeting to help us.
What in the heck is
Yeah.
going on?
We're all very, very
Could
confused.
we step back and give an update on like, how did this started? I understand there's an issue with Ardent Mills not getting water one day.
Well, the pump went out.
Okay,
The pump went out. And so there was no water. Purswell had pulled it in May, I think. And, but I think it was electrical issue, this past problem. So that opened up some other issues of who owns the well and who owns the property and who owns the pump. And it all escalated into my contacting Ken and getting some information. And now Ken's thrown some more kinks in our,
Confusion.
and my question is, what happened and where are we? So from what I have gleaned is the well was actually, it's on Waste Management property. It was considered a stock well to Waste Management, so they didn't have to have any permitting for the water rights. And when the industrial park was built, there appears to have been some type of verbal agreement between Waste Management and Gilliam County, because neither Waste Management's representative or ourselves can come up with any type of written agreement that the county would get the water rights, which happened in 2003. There was also apparently an agreement that the county could build the pumping station and the storage on Waste Management property. So that's where we are, except that Ken has come up with a letter from Kate Brown's office telling us that our permit has been canceled.
All right, I'm Ken Tino with Oregon Water Resources. There's two different permits. There was one that has been gone through and has a claim of beneficial use. That's the last step of the whole process. The next thing would be for you guys to get a certificate. That's under permit 13844. That one is for 60 gallons per minute. And it's from Gilliam, the classification for the well is GILL 119. That's how the state identifies it. So that well is the one that's in existence being pumped out right now. When they pulled it and they were figuring out that it was an electrical problem, they found that the static was the same it was when it was drilled back in 1983, so they're not overusing it. Everything is in good shape for the static water, where the water actually is below land surface. Okay, now there was a second application made. These are both made by Gilliam County. And this one was under permit G 15627. And this one was for 2 CFS, which is about 900 gallons a minute. And one of the wells was the existing Gilliam 119, and then they were also going to drill a second well. Since they didn't drill the second well, and and they didn't get the time of extension done during Schaefer's administration. That basically, and Leanne basically, they said, do we need it? No, because when we talked with Daryl, they said they only needed 75,000 gallons a day, and that was going to be taken care of by this smaller permit that they proceeded with and got the claim beneficial use done. So they decided, okay, we're not going to pursue this. We're going to let this one die. So that one got left to be canceled, and it has been canceled at this time. So that's where we're sitting right now. What other questions do you have?
So it sounds like, okay, a couple of things for us to sort out. On the repair on the current well, I'm assuming that the pump already got repaired.
Yes,
Arden Mills is back,
yes.
has employees in. It sounds like we may need to go back and actually put in writing the agreement with Waste Management. Are we in agreement on that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Seems like that was a big step they might have missed, but
we need some type of agreement with Waste Management that says that we are able to use, I don't know, we have the water rights,
An
right?
access easement would be.
access easement.
That would be an access and maintenance easement. So wherever the pipelines are, like where it goes up to the reservoir, 10 feet on either side, so they can get equipment in there to fix things as they need to. The area around the reservoir for if that fails, maybe a secondary spot. We're talking, eons away, but just.
Okay, you said, I thought that the county owns the reservoir,
Yes,
and it's on Waste Management property?
yes.
You can build stuff anywhere you want, you don't have to own the property. Doesn't mean it's a good idea.
So,
I mean, we've seen that with houses in the county too, people build houses on properties not theirs.
well, let's aim higher since we're the government. Let's
We
aim higher.
we do need to, and I have been having conversations with Leah Shannon in her capacity with Waste Management. And I think what we need to do is maybe sit down with more of the Waste Management team and discuss what we see is the best idea for that. And then we're going to have to go to our county council and draw up something that says that we have.
Yeah, I wonder
An
if
easement
even,
to-
I mean, we talked some about drilling a well. I wonder if it would be maybe feasible just to buy the spot that the well in the reservoir are on.
Well, it's, yeah, because it's right there on the corner and where the pump is, and then it's, the reservoir is up on the hill, so it'd be like a strip, but I don't know if that's in the county
Well, it'd be a zoning issue.
zoning, yeah, to be able to.
So
do that.
Sherry,
Yes.
do you want to run point on it?
Oh, man. Do I not want to, but I will.
Okay, so on that particular issue, it sounds like we've got water at Arden Mills, which was my concern.
Right,
The county will pay for the repairs.
yes, because it's our.
Because it's our
The
rights.
equipment belongs to us.
Okay. Sherry's gonna work with Waste Management to start talking about either a documentation of the current agreement
Situation, yeah.
or perhaps a purchase of the property, depending on what makes the most sense.
And the other thing that is a little bit of concern is there are cattle grazing in there and the pump house is not fenced. And I'm not sure that it wouldn't be a good idea. Kevin Hagwood suggested that it would be a good idea if we fenced off the pump house so that the cattle aren't able to get up there and walk around. I mean, it's a nice building, but they still have access to climb around wherever they want. So that's something else we would have to ask Waste Management if we could do as well, because it is their property.
I feel pretty strongly that before we think that we're going to start marketing shelter to anybody else,
Yes,
we need
exactly.
to get this addressed, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so that's point one. It sounds like we've got an action plan. The second piece of this is the second well water right issue on whether we want to continue to just let that die or if there's because Ken, I think, laid out what the process would be to try to get the right reinstated and drill the well. So maybe you could walk us through that piece and maybe give us the pros and cons for doing that.
Okay, well, first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to petition the director for reconsideration of the application or of the permit. If that goes through, I mean, that can be denied, that it could not work, but if it does, then the next thing you would have to do is you'd have to file an extension of time application, which is $670 with our department. And then if that goes through, it's a public process, everybody can come out of the woodwork and contest it if they feel like it. So it just there's no guarantees on anything. I don't want to just make that abundantly clear. Okay, but if the petition is accepted and the extension is granted, and then you would have to spend money on getting the well drilled. And because you have to put in the second well. The first one's already there, and they probably could have finished it with just the one that was there, but that well only puts out 100 gallons a minute. So why get another 450 out of it when you could only pump 100 max? So that's one of the downfalls of that. So they put in a new hole. So they drilled a new hole. This is what I found when I was looking at all the wells around the area. Everything with below 250, basically 250 feet deep, 20 to 100 gallons a minute. That's all it's going to produce. So the water right, even though you have a 450 gallon a minute water right out of that well, you're still only going to get 100. And then after everything's said and done, the water right will only be for whatever that well will produce. So, okay. So you get the well drilled. You basically have to hook up the flow meter and conveyance to the system, and that's money. And then you have to hire a consultant to file what's called the claim of beneficial use. So after everything's done, all the conditions have been met for the extension of time, you put your flow meter in, you connected it, everything's operating the way it's supposed to. Then you hire a consultant, which you've already done for this previous one, so you might be able to hire the same people back because they have it all mapped already. So you bring that person back and you say, okay, we need to do this claim of beneficial use. So, okay, he comes in, finishes the claim of beneficial use, and then it will be going to a certificate if all of those ducks fall in the same row. Okay? Is that your question so far?
Maybe it's a preliminary question, but of those wells you're talking about, and I think the email said something about 350, 400 gallon a minute. Obviously, I've been around irrigation a lot and stuff, and 100 gallons a minute out there is, you really don't have anything that you can develop, shovel, if that's all the water you're gonna have.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. I mean, if you have some industry come in there of some kind,
how big is the storage? Is that 150 or 300? Is 300?
Some change, yeah.
Okay, well, it's pretty big storage. And
Sorry to do all that for a second.
but I was wondering, you said history of wells in the area, and I think you said to 500.
yeah, if they go down to 500,
You might get
then
350.
you might get the water that you want. Here's the caveat to that. It's so close to the other well, you start pulling on that thing hard.
Yeah, I don't think that's as big an issue as, if you lost the water in the other well and got more water, I don't think that's as big an issue. The not drilling a hole, not getting water is a big issue.
Yeah.
That was the other part.
And
That's the scary part.
my other question is there any deeper wells than 500 feet that you're looking at?
Yeah,
there's some
there was one
irrigation
that-
wells that'll get up to 1,000 gallons a minute, or?
No, nothing in this local vicinity that'll get even close. I think 650 was the max that I saw out of any well in the whole section.
I farmed some ground at Rock Creek and we had some irrigation wells, but I don't remember what they produced at that.
It depends on if you're down on Hyatt's place, that one will really produce. But most of them will produce about 300 to 500 down on Rock
There's
Creek.
a couple on that place on Haberstad's on it now, which was the old Dave Child's place.
Yeah,
What were those wells,
I can't recall off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
So Ken, Is there, for the second permit, the water right, like, how do you determine where you need to, do you have
It's already
latitude
set.
and where?
It's already set.
Okay,
Where they put it on the map, they have to basically try to be as close to that as possible.
okay, and how big is, but, I mean, are we talking
A
within?
30-foot circle.
Okay,
Okay, you're talking about a 30-foot circle. That's
So
what
it's
the only
really
accuracy
just-
we have with our GPS. So within a 30-foot circle of that spot, they called it out on the map at a certain feet from north and south from a certain corner. And that's where they say, okay, this is where we're gonna put it.
okay.
Now, if you wanted to, say you wanted to change that, you wanted to put it someplace else, and you already got your reconsideration, that went through, and you got your extension of time, that went through. At that point, then you can amend the permit and move the point of appropriation from that spot where it is already in the application or in the permit, you can move it someplace else.
Is the current spot on Gilliam County property?
You know, I'm not positive. I think that Sherry and I need to do a little bit more investigation on that because I was a little bit blurry on, okay, you know, it's just a spot on the map right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that actually on there or not? We don't have a physical thing to go out and tie and say, oh yeah, this is across the line or this is right here. Just, we need to do some more investigation.
This is kind of completely, water rights out of Columbia, how hard are they to get, or what is? I mean, the other option you would have would be to try to get water 7 miles out from the Columbia River.
Well, Arlington does have big water rights, and that out of the Columbia right now, last time I checked, they were trying to find a place to put it. So, I mean,
you have
You're already
cost
here.
comparison running
So
water
that
out
would
of
be,
Columbia.
yeah, that would be another
versus-
option as opposed to drilling a well
Well.
if we got more industry there that we needed to.
Seems like the well would be cheaper though. Would it not, than running water 10 miles up?
It's not terribly cheap.
No, it isn't.
in a good conveyance system, I mean, look what Willow Creek accomplished by putting in that 6-mile pipeline that they have. They took almost, I think they took about 15 wells offline, and I can't remember how many horsepower that it was to push all that. But, and you already have it, and if they can't use the water from Arlington, they're going to be certified at a lower rate. So that permit that they have at this time, if I understand it correctly, they have to be able to, in the clean beneficial use, show that they've got a place to put all of that water, which is a huge water right. So if they had the option of pushing it up here to the industrial park, I'll leave it up to you guys to look at that.
And those lost water rights you don't get back.
No,
Would
they're
the-
never coming back.
Would the city do that though?
Well, I mean, I don't know, that's a conversation. I know they're trying to do some things at the golf course and change some water around so they have backup for the city and bring water out from the river to irrigate. They've got some, I don't remember the details, but they're looking at some things. They've also got a well up here somewhere that,
The airport well,
yeah, I think it needs work
that doesn't
on.
have a water right.
No.
No, but one
Well,
here-
there's another well someplace up here that's a big producer that what they communicated was the state has said you can't use that water until you fix the well. Not sure where that's at, somewhere between Krebs and the airport somewhere.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
I'd like to know about it too, because it's potentially, a well repair for a lot of water.
So Ken, what's the timeline for, let's say that we wanted to ask for reconsideration on the second permit? What's the timeline to file that?
Well, the timeline is very, very short
Yeah, we have-
because we only have another 15 days to actually to ask for reconsideration. So that is extremely short if you want to get this done. And
Because it was 60 days from June 16th.
yeah, we're running, So I guess you have a month, but you probably want to get it done as quickly as possible if you wanted to ask for reconsideration. reconsideration.
But we probably ought to start that process just so that option's still there.
Right, I
That's what I was
agree.
wondering.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so is that the consensus of the court that we
That
would
would
like
be
to?
mine.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you're not really investing a lot into just at
Right.
least going through that part of the process.
Yes. And then if we decide we want to drill a well, we at least have
Have
taken the
option.
steps to get there.
So what does that actually look like, Ken? Is that
I've never
a
done one.
form, a
I'm gonna have
letter?
to tell the senior staff, I've never done one myself.
Okay,
So I will have to get a drafted one that was approved and present it to you guys,
okay.
so you guys can see something that actually worked.
So commissioners, could I get a motion that just authorizes us to take care of that?
Yeah, because we won't,
As in,
yeah.
Submitting the reconsideration to the state
but a motion for the court to do that? You-
for
To
me and
authorize her
staff,
to do it because we
because-
aren't going to meet again before our time runs out.
Yeah, I would make a motion to authorize the judge to apply for, what would you?
The reconsideration.
Reconsideration, right,
Reconsideration for the,
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the judge to apply for the reconsideration, specifically on permit G 15627. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we'll get at least that, hopefully. I mean, of course, if they deny it, well, then we need to
Then we'll have to
start,
pursue other.
but at least keeping the option open. And then in terms of next steps, I don't think we can make a decision actually on this well until we figure out whether the city is even game on their water rights and to kind of map out cost benefit of the two. So are you golfing with Jeff anytime soon?
yeah, I can take that to Jeff and him get it in front of the council and get a discussion going, because it's just foolish of them to
Right.
lose.
If we could help them
water
with their water rights, that would be super.
rights.
Well, and as we know, if we land industry up there, that's a huge benefit to this community to
Right,
have.
right.
It's more jobs, it's more, their taxing districts, not necessarily the
I think
city, but
just in
it's
some
more.
discussions I've had over the years with Peter, there has been some discussions between the port and the city about water rights.
I mean, when I was at the Grain Lab, Peter and I talked about it at length, running probably like a small lineup. There was there's working on 2 million gallons a day, I think, water right. If you had, there's a couple different ones, I think.
If you were ever to get a shot at, say, a data center or something, water's a big issue.
Mhm.
If you give me a second, I can look that one up for the city now.
Yeah, because one of the questions I would have, or I could see the counselors, if they had objections, it would be to say that they feel that their water rights couldn't support the industrial park at the Mesa, any city needs plus Scheller Station. So I'd be curious to see, like, could it? You know, if Mesa was fully full, could it support all the industry up there, all of the city's needs, and Scheller?
Yeah, the water right that they actually have from the Columbia River is it's over 3,500 gallons a minute.
Oh, wow.
So here's the caveat, if they don't use it, I think they only have like 1,200 gallons a minute that they can use right now. If they don't use that, they'll lose it.
Is there a timeline on that you could give?
I will have to get, I think the COBU is due in 2030, so they do have some time if I understand it correctly.
Okay.
Okay, so follow-ups. Sherry's gonna work with Waste Management on well number 1. I'm gonna get the reconsideration application into the state. Pat's gonna have a discussion with the mayor on,
Get it to the city.
okay. Did you get all that, Teresa?
Yep,
Okay.
everybody has an assignment.
Anything else on this particular issue? And we'll just keep it, obviously, this is a big issue, so I'm sure we'll have multiple court discussions about all of this. Thank you, Ken, for coming and
Yes.
making sense of this.
Thank
because
you.
Oh, I don't know if I did, but I'll.
When this first came in, I was like, what is happening in Shetler? I'm confused.
No, very much
No,
appreciate
this
it.
was really helpful.
Okay, anything else on that piece? Are we ready to move on?
I think we're good for now. We
Oh.
have things to, homework.
We have homework. Okay, so let's go into announcements and next meeting. Next meeting will be August 4th. That one will be in Condon. And then we'll go into announcements. Sherry.
Norcor is not meeting in August. They'll be back, in July, they'll be back in August. And CAPCO isn't going to meet again until September. So those are both kind of on hold. And I have been working with, on this well issue and attending the City of Arlington, well, it's not City of Arlington, the Arlington Volunteer Revitalization Committee. I've been sitting in on those meetings and
They're planning a big public meeting, correct? Shortly.
I don't know what the next step is.
I don't know either.
That's a weird question. They
Yeah.
had a deal in the park and it's just, it seems to be growing slowly, some momentum and more people getting interested, and that's really where we're at, just trying to draw the interest in.
We had
There's some action, it's slow growth, but.
Great. Go ahead.
we had just an informational gather ideas.
Got a
Dinner in the
full of
park.
Suggestions.
Oh, that's good. On last Friday, so
Oh,
that was our first step, was to get people together.
That was
and-
the big meeting I was thinking of.
Yes,
Last Friday.
and let them know what, give people an idea of what we're doing and get some ideas.
Had about
How do we go
35 or
forward?
40 people there, I think.
Oh, it's great turnout.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
That's awesome.
So, and that's it, that's me.
What about you, Pat? What you got going on?
I got on a Zoom meeting the other day over the River Democracy Act while I was going to Jim's Rodeo. For a long time, you guys are following, that's been pretty interesting. And it's a Wyden Parkway bill, mainly Wyden, I think, is being sponsored. But they had a lot of attorneys on the call. The Zoom call was really interesting because in my new Jeep, you can drive down the road and be on a Zoom call and it comes up on the screen of the dash.
Oh, how fun is that?
It was
Wow,
pretty
you're
cool.
really
Is that
uptown,
safe?
man.
Yeah.
Is that safe?
It was pretty cool, but they had a lot of attorneys on there that are extremely concerned about the way the act is written at this point. I don't think anybody's got any concerns about the intent, but they got concerns about the consequences and what could happen. And I think it's an issue that we should consider having some discussion around, because there's 4,700 miles of that that's going to be designated in Oregon. And in Gilliam County, there's some on Rock Creek and some on 30 Mile. And of course, obviously the John Day River, but a lot of the concerns that I would have over it is they're designating some places where they're showing there's just dry gulches. It's
Okay.
river and wildlife.
Do I have the gist that basically they're looking at expanding the designation for wild and scenic? Is that what they're doing?
But they're not really
Do you know
going
about
through,
this?
the problem with it is they're not going through the process that the wild and scenic says you need to go through to designate more mileage. They're calling it through a democracy act. They're bypassing a step that the other legislation says you need to follow. So there's a lot of controversy in how they're even going about it. And then there's a lot of controversy on wildfires and controlling fuel and private landowners' access to their own property. And, there's a lot, which we went through, I think, with Cottonwood, what was designated before. There was a lot of issues over that. So it's a pretty big deal. And it's they're asking for counties to weigh in whether they oppose or are in favor. And I don't remember what the deadline is on it. Anyhow.
I don't remember either.
Are
I
they
did read
thinking
some
it's
of that.
even gonna move forward though? I mean,
Well,
is that
I've heard
something that's
both.
gonna get
I've heard
traction?
both ways, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you read that kind of stuff accurately.
Well, you
It
just,
looks like it would be tough to get it through, but then it's supposed to be federal, so.
yeah,
There's some fear that, and it's really, this is targeted Oregon, obviously, federal bill targeted Oregon, that this would open up, stuff across the nation that they don't want to have happen. So
Mhm.
there's got to be some opposition, I would think.
I would think there would be a lot of opposition potentially.
And then we got another Korean meeting from Philomath on my Jeep on my little screen. And we had North Central Public Health District meeting on the 13th and determined that meeting that with the applicants for the executive director and the one applicant that was a legitimate application, didn't really have any true interest in it. Dallas hadn't even looked into the community to see what it was like. It
Oh,
was
goodness.
applying for jobs all over the Northwest, and they were uncomfortable. Basically, the board felt that somebody you know and what they can do is way better than somebody you don't. And so Shelley had not applied because she didn't want to go through the process and everything else. So the board recommended to Kathy to go back to Shelley and offer her the position, which Lee said they could do, and she has since accepted that.
Okay,
So
so
that
Shelley
whole-
has moved from interim to official
the whole
director,
has been plugged.
That's good.
which is fascinating because I think she originally applied for the job and then they reopened it because they wanted to see if there were more applicants.
What happened in the history of it is she applied, they put it out there, she applied after Terry, they put her in as an interim. Then she applied, there was only they only had 60 days of experience with her and they were uncomfortable and the staff got extremely upset because they didn't hire her. But they elected to go back out, which is the process they went through.
Got it.
So it took them all this time to go back through that, and then she didn't want to apply again because she didn't get it when she had applied the first time, and it was hard on her personally.
I understand.
Yeah.
And so she just said she wasn't going to put herself through it. But checking with legal, it was legal just to appoint her. She's already in the position, and that's what we ended up doing.
Okay, that's good. So we have a director.
Yeah, and then, you guys, I'm sure on the email, no, on Teresa's email about the CCS concerns over insurance.
Mhm.
And I did reach out to the director and talk to the guy. I got an email from him yesterday. He's looking into some of the insurance issues. I don't have any real facts back. I talked to Dave Anderson about it, and a lot of his complaints came from an employee at the clinic who ended up with a great big bill, who had insurance and was told they just need to pay the bill and take it back to one insurance and collect it, which I thought was kind of, but I think there's some issues on what those insurance companies will, what clinicians they accept, and so there's, I don't know the answer to that yet, but they are looking at it anyway. And the thing for us is, obviously Gilliam County's Blue Cross or Regis, and then Waste Management, biggest employer in the county is Cigna, and those two were stated by Dave they don't accept, which is, I think, problematic. And part of his argument was you got people with mental health issues, and then we do that to
Right, that really helps.
That doesn't really help. So
Yeah, Kimberly called me yesterday about a separate issue and she did raise that they're open to taking that. But I think to your point, what she was saying is that some insurance, they have to have the practitioner has to have whatever combination of letters at the end of their name. And the practitioners in Arlington and Gilliam County, but specifically in Arlington, don't have those letters. And so they weren't the particular practitioner is not covered by that. It has to be a licensed counselor, blah, 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 and maybe our folks or something else. So they were looking into it, she said.
And then I did talk to Gabrielle with Painted Hills yesterday and just kind of see where they're at. They lost the guy that was kind of pushing the project. He went to work for a competitor.
Oh, no.
Pat.
Yeah, really?
And so she went back to the board. They're still interested in pursuing it. Morrow County's after him pretty hard. There's some obstacles with that because cold storage wouldn't be in the same place as the facility and they'd have some transportation issues. But the building came in from Jeff at $8.5 million.
Yeah.
And so they're nervous.
Yeah.
And still want to move forward, still interested in what Gilliam County, has to offer. And I think that she said she's got a meeting with Jeff Dane next Tuesday at the Chamber of Commerce, and I might try to sit in with that too. And then other than that, board meeting tonight, I'm going to go to that.
Cool. Let me see what I've got. So one thing I want to update everybody on is the Frontier 911 board met last week. And several of the agenda items had to do with Frontier Telenet. And Frontier Telenet's ongoing financial woes. Because I think my colleagues on that board were hopeful that Frontier 911 would help fill some budget gaps in terms of getting the Concord Tower built and a few other things, and wanting more of Jefferson County's user fees coming through to Frontier Telenet. The Frontier 911 board was lukewarm to that suggestion, I think is probably a fair characterization. But what it did spur was a conversation about the need for those two boards to have tighter coordination and communication. And so one of the things that we discussed, and I have blessings from Sheriff Betancourt, who's the chair of Frontier 911, and from the Frontier Telenet board, at least in concept, is to explore whether those two boards could be merged. So you'd have you'd have one organization with one board, or two organizations, one board, or two organizations, two boards that are identical, so that the same people are sitting in both meetings, because the right and the left hand right now are not communicating very well. And so, and it makes sense because Frontier Telenet has never had users sitting on that board. It's always been the 3 county judges. We don't use the system. So when the sheriffs ask Day Wireless for an upgrade to something they need, it's coming through 911. Day Wireless is saying, okay, we'll do it. And then the bill shows up at Frontier Telenet. So there's not, if you see what I mean, there's not good communication between the two. Ironically, Frontier 911 is the entity that has all the money. Frontier Telenet ends up paying for everything, and it doesn't have any money. The county's backfill it. So that's why we're thinking if we can somehow coordinate those two boards and their budgets a little bit more efficiently, that maybe we can resolve the problems that Frontier Telenet has financially, have users who are overseeing the whole system and not just what's happening within the call center, because the sheriffs obviously have a vested interest in the towers working and their radios working. And so it seems kind of crazy now. I think it made sense back when they did it. Frontier Telenet was serving a broader mission. It was about internet to schools and a bunch of things that it is not doing anymore. And as that mission kind of gets back to just public safety, it may make sense to look at the board and
because the only customer or the only user is Frontier Telenet, Frontier 911,
for
right?
the most part. There's a few legacy internet connections that are still happening, and WindWave is using some of that infrastructure to reach the schools right now in Wheeler County. But my understanding is Oregon Telephone got a huge Reconnect grant from the feds to bring fiber in from Grant County into Sprague. And once that happens, I don't know that they're going to need the Frontier Telenet infrastructure anymore to haul communication out of. So it's just a matter of time before fiber is connected to all those schools, and then there won't be a use on that piece. So there's still a little bit of a legacy, but for the most part, it's public safety traffic that's being hauled on it for the most part. So anyway, I just wanted to update you on that, because if the decision from the two boards is, hey, we want to merge, or that's going to require the governing bodies to actually look at all those original IGAs and redo them and restructure everything. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. that we're starting some discussions about whether to merge or if they're separate, how to make the boards so that they're talking better than what they're doing. So that was the big update. Other than that, let me see what else we've got going on here. I'm just scrolling through my calendar. I do have the discussion with the MCED director, Jessica Mehta, next week on moving from GEODC to MCED. So I will give you an update on that once I kind of get a sense from her. She did not say no in my initial email. So I'm taking that as a positive sign that she didn't say, are you crazy? Tomorrow afternoon, so we received proposals back for our consulting firm for our fiber project or our broadband project. The Fiber Council is going to meet tomorrow to do the initial review. And so how this will work is they're going to look at those applications. They're going to interview the applicants. Then they're going to rank them and provide their recommendation to the county court. The proposals that came in because of our funky procurement laws didn't come in with dollars attached to them. And so the court, probably at our next meeting, will be receiving the recommendation from the Fiber Council, sort of ranked. Here's who we think is probably the best option, 1 through 4. We had 4 respondents. And then as well as the cost, the firms will then provide costs once they've received the initial ranking. And then obviously you'll be able to see the proposals. So during the next meeting, I think we can expect to at least be talking about whether we're ready to award a bid to have one of those firms help us. All of them have been told and understand that the idea is not for the county to become the ISP, that the idea is for them to be talking to Arlington TV Co-op, to Home Telephone, to all of those entities, to Columbia Basin that have potential assets so that they can create a whole picture of how to reach every house.
Sure.
So I'm super excited about this.
I'm curious, I read in Marina, I guess was at the bargaining at Kent Flowers, she said that you could go through that process. She said that Arlington TV had been invited to some Fiber Council meetings and stuff and had not showed up. Is that?
I think so. Catherine's the one that actually does the agendas and sends them out. I'm not sure if they're on her distribution
I'll talk to
list.
John about it. They need to participate in that as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
On the particular council, you'll remember we have 2 Gilliam County reps, there's 2 city reps, and then we have an at-large.
I
So
don't know
there's
who
5.
was on
but
that.
It's Rita and I. On the city side, it is Jan Stinchfield and I think Donald Jameson. And the at-large is, I don't remember, Josh Hendricks, I think is his last name.
You're getting a nod over there, Julia. Right in, yeah.
Yeah. And then as well, Adam Hass, who is our consultant, will provide some feedback. And then we also solicited some feedback from Clackamas County and another county who had done municipal builds before and have looked at these to just kind of give like what's your impression?
Right.
Looking at the 4, what should the Fiber Council be looking at? And so all of that all packaged together so that you can see the Fiber Council's recommendation, the sort of quote unquote pros that looked at it and kind of gave their observations of the different firms. And then we'll be able as a court to discuss the 4, look at the
Was there
prices.
some funding, federal funding that we earmarked for?
We have not specifically said this will go toward it, but the ARPA funds
Right.
are eligible to use that. And so they're sitting in an economic, I think we put them in economic development. So they could be used for that if we decided to do that. We could use economic development funds if we wanted to. I mean, we have a couple of options of where to take it from, depending on how big the bid
Yeah, it
is, right?
specifically says rural fiber in there for the ARPA money, so it would be a good use.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that's what Wasco County told me they were doing.
I think it was,
Well, what now, the funding that we got, about 400,000?
roughly
Yeah.
300 and change. I think.
Free.
And I think they got $1.5 million or something.
Yeah, they have some.
A little bit more money to play with.
Speaking of ARPA, the other thing that I am gonna put on the agenda for next, I don't know if you guys were on, AOC sent out some opportunities for
I was
ARPA
just looking for that.
money,
Yeah.
one of which is housing, and so I sent it to Condens, to Catherine, since the city has been pretty active on that, and said, would this be helpful? I think she had some thoughts on that, so we'll put that on the agenda for next time to talk about if that's an interest in using some of the ARPA money for housing technical assistance, I think is what it was for. So other than that,
There it is.
mostly AOC meetings and the usual.
Melissa Cribbins.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I don't have anything.
If not, it is 11:45 and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.